Welcome back, everybody. We are here. We are once again in the crypt. Happy to be here, guys, for another great interview. This is one I have been looking forward to for a couple weeks now. I've been looking actually longer than that. As soon as I set it up, I was so excited to do this. This is something I'm getting so passionate about and interested in, and I'm hoping you guys are going to find this information that we're going to be talking about and my guest really interesting, and maybe you can start putting it into action in your life like I'm going to be doing. And we are going to be talking about food, forest, and me and Jonathan, my co-host from the Crypt Rick and Jonathan show at Rev Radio, we've had this guest on before, and Jonathan and I talk about food, forest all the time, as you guys know if you're listening to our show, and I think this is such a great idea. And it's going to lead to so many positive things. So I wanted to get my guest on. We've had him on the show on the radio before, and I wanted to get him on for this video interview to talk about food forest, what it is, and where it can go, what it's going to lead to, the freedom it's going to give everyone. And I think that's a great topic. It's so empowering. So I'm not going to babble too much here at the beginning, guys. I want to get my guest on right away here. So 1 second. Welcome, Jim Gale, to the show. Happy to have you back, my friend. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
It's wonderful to be back, Rick. It's just beautiful to be here sharing this message, this inspiring and empowering message. What we're going to talk about today, for everybody listening, is the idea whose time has come, stronger than all of the armies of the world. This is the solution to mass extinction and deforestation, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and tyranny. When we take the poisons out of our lives and use our resources, our energy, and our land wisely, we solve all the world's biggest problems.
I agree with you, Jim, 1,000%. Jonathan told me about food forestry about a year ago, maybe a little less, somewhere around there, and he brought the idea to me and then started explaining it, and I dove right into it. Now, I garden. I only got a yard a few years back. So I was living in the city. I didn't have any land. I was living in an apartment. Got a property. And then what I did is what I think I do more than most people do. I started a garden, have no experience. I'm kind of learning as I go. I know I learned a little bit as a kid. I stuck things in the ground and I started growing them. Can you, I want you to take this wherever you want to go to educate people. Let's go into, what is it? Because some people are probably thinking, what's the difference between a food forest and just a normal garden that people plant every summer?
I love that question. And it's so profound and so important. The gardening and the growing of food that is normal in our world today is not normal in historical terms.
Okay.
Like indigenous people, I was just chatting with a fella who was raised in the upper Northeast, and he was telling me about the indigenous people up there when Columbus came, and before him, when other people came to this country, they had food forests everywhere. They used their land wisely. And then, of course, what the United States government did, the armies of the world, is they destroyed their food supply so they could control the indigenous people. What we're talking about is planting perennial edible landscapes that are mostly indigenous to the area, to the zone, that produce food in perpetuity. And this can be done everywhere. Literally everywhere that there is green and wildlife, you can have permaculture principles. In Central Florida, in Galt's Landing, where we moved, we have over 230 different types of perennial edible landscapes. Now, the difference between annuals and annuals are typically hybridized foods like kales and spinaches and broccolis and carrots and many, many more.
Okay.
And it's okay if they're hybridized as long as they're not grown with poisons. But what's way better for the lazy farmer like me is planting something that you plant once and it continuously produces more and more food every year forever.
Wow. That's powerful. I'm just thinking of everything that you just said, Jim, and I do think of, I wondered where, it's something I didn't think a lot about. I don't think a lot of people think about where their food comes from. I think we just, over time, we've gotten kind of lazy and, we're so used to just going to a grocery store and picking up what we need. And I know when I started gardening a few years back, it really made me appreciate nature, made me appreciate how long it takes to grow something. And I'm glad that you said that, because that's the downside to gardening is like, and I got so many questions, so I'm going to try to stay focused. But it's definitely like it's a process when you're just doing a garden. You can only plant it you plant your crops at the beginning, and then you harvest them at the end, and then you got to rinse and repeat. You got to do that every
Yep.
year.
Yep.
The power of a food forest is so much greater because, as you said, this is something you plant once and then you design it so you're saying it takes care of itself is what you're saying.
Okay, so this is how I like to help people see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I ask people if they have a yard or if they've ever had a yard. I ask them, do you have any lawn or any bushes or any trees in your yard? And the answer is always yes.
Yep. Tons.
Right? Now, if 50% of that lawn and every bush and every tree were a food producing plant instead of a non food producing plant, if that were the only logical shift that we would make in our society with 44 million acres of lawn, it would literally end mass extinction, deforestation, and all the problems of our world. Because food is a weapon of the slave master.
Agreed.
Food, and most people aren't aware of this, the food supply chain is done. It's absolutely toast. The soil's been destroyed and mined, poisoned and toxified. And this is not by accident. It's not because we're lazy. It's not because we're just stupid. Yes, ignorant. Ignorance and stupid are very different things.
Exactly.
Ignorant means I just don't know yet. Stupid means I can never know, right? We've been manipulated and coerced. And this is a strategy by people like Kissinger, who said, if you want to control people, control food. Control of the food supply leads to what we have now, which is sickness. Then they also control medicine, right? Which
Yep.
is not healthy at all relative to its natural counterpart, which these synthesized medicines are actually derived from. So the half truth is that medicine solves some symptoms. But the full truth is, if we use the natural component in place of the pharmaceutical, which is patented for profit and control, then we don't have the negative side effects if they are used wisely. So this is literally it. And the strategies, the layers that we've put together with the permaculture network and our entities, it's really exciting. I'm excited to share them with you.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited too. I really having new appreciation for growing stuff and learning about nature. It's fascinating, and I just think of the power of what you're talking about. And you're so right, Jim, when you talk about how they our food supply. That's the one thing I am worried about. I really do worry about it because I don't think people realize how fragile our foods like our food system is. Like, I mean, most people are, I know people in my area, the odd person even just has a garden. Most people aren't even gardening anymore. So to me, I see the recipe for disaster, especially with what's coming. I don't like to be a gloom person and all of that, but I do want to talk in reality. And I'm glad you said that I can see food shortages coming. I'm just being honest with people.
It's already happening.
It's happening.
All over the world, in
Yep.
so many places. It's already happening. And it's already happening here in the United States at scale. People who are on a fixed income, retired people and veterans and many different people who might be on a fixed income, they were already just making it. The price of eggs doubles, the price of meat doubles, the price of basic goods and services and energy forms double. Now they have to choose. And what do they choose? Well, they'll go and buy a lesser food.
Yeah.
They'll have a lesser energy source that will provide less nutrients, which makes them more sick, which is why the lifespan is projected to go down for the first time in modern history.
Right, right. So this do you think so this is by design, correct? Like, I mean,
100% by design, absolutely, for sure. And it's really easy to see for people who are not programmed too much, where they can open up their mind and just take a look at it.
absolutely. And it's just scary. I just think of what's going to happen if people don't start doing what we're talking about and taking.
I want to reframe that,
Okay,
because
go ahead.
fear is the ultimate metaphysical control mechanism of the slave master.
Agreed.
Right? So this is the biggest opportunity in the history of humanity right now.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I speak about that constantly, Jim, about how they use fear as a weapon. That's their go-to.
Yep.
And I just see I see the possibilities in this food forest. I really do. And I think of all now that I'm aware of it, everywhere I look, I see land that's not being used. It changes your whole mindset when you get this mindset of food forestry. You look at the whole landscape different. I know I do. I look at and I'm not saying there's not a place for trees and flowers and stuff like that. And I'm sure you're not either. But I see just all these lawns in my neighborhood that people are just mowing, and it's just grass. There's nothing growing there. But the power of if you put half, let's be generous, let's say half your yard and started planting food. Wow.
Half your yard, the average, let's say a quarter acre suburban homestead,
Yep.
which is just a home. um,
Yep.
if you take the edges and you put a tenth of an acre food forest on a quarter of an acre, you can feed a family. You can give them all the food they need to survive. And then with a little bit of time and a little bit more, they can thrive off the food produced on the land. You add some chickens, maybe you add a little fish pond to that, which has multiple different functions. You add layers of food, the sweet potatoes and the potatoes and the yuccas and the taros and many roots and tubers. And then you've got a fence on the side. You put grapevines and passion fruit vines and different vining lettuces up the fence, turning the fence green. And then you've got your shorter shrubs and taller shrubs and bigger fruit trees and smaller fruit trees. You stack them all into a system, and you walk out your back door, and you used to walk out into suburbia,
Yep.
cookie cutter death suburbia. Now you walk out into paradise with multiple birds and butterflies and life to the max. It's absolutely the Garden of Eden is not a utopian fantasy. It's how we should be living with nature's or God's design.
I totally agree. So well said too, Jim. I mean, it really is, and even me just gardening, and it's nowhere close to. I'm doing what we're speaking about. I'm in the process. I want to really jump onto this.
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated, and I want to do it. I see the power in even in bringing the communities together, because it's something I think that people. Okay, you start in your yard, you figure that out, and then I just see it growing because people are going to see around you what you're doing, the benefits. They're going to see that you're getting all this healthy food is key. The
Yeah.
word I want to say, because
100%.
Go ahead. It's important.
100%. And there's four components to catalyzing shift that leads to freedom in our world: local food, water, and energy.
Mm-hmm.
And housing, of course, is one. But let's just take local food, water, and energy and community. And this is one a lot of people aren't talking about as much as I think we need to start
I
talking
agree.
about.
Yep.
When we add community, because like at Galt's Landing, we're growing a ridiculous amount of food. But if we were the only ones that had an abundance of food over the next 10 years, that would not be food security. In fact, we would need an army to protect our food.
Yep.
Food security is when we can look out our windows or drive down the street and all of our neighbors are also growing food. So this is what we're actually doing around the world, all over the place, is we're inspiring and empowering people to grow food and then to help their neighbors grow food. And that becomes the foundation of freedom in our world.
I totally, yes, exactly, and that's why Jonathan and I talk a lot about that, about community. I'm
Yeah.
really big on, because now I live in one. When you're in the city, it's kind of hard, like you lose that connection. But
Yeah.
now that I'm in an area where it's a suburbia area, but there's a community,
Yeah.
I see the possibilities, and I just, it really bothers me, Jim, that I just don't see people gardening. I just see, like I said, it changed the way I look at land
Yeah.
when I started learning about what you're talking about in food forestry. I was just like, wow, there's so much wasted land that we could be growing food there. And as you said, there would be no food shortages if people took a little bit of their property and just grew, and they planted it so it was always producing every year. It would be, like you said, it solves so many things. And while it brings the community together, it's something the whole community can get involved in.
Oh,
That's
it solves
power.
all of it. It literally, and I'll give you some really concrete examples. There are people in the United States right now who, on a tenth of an acre, are feeding their whole family and selling their excess, right? So let's take a quarter acre because they're stacking max. But anybody on a quarter acre can feed a family of 3 or 4 when you add the different elements that I'm
Right.
talking about. Now, on a quarter acre, so check this out. There are about 900 million acres of ag land Land that has been clear cut and is now growing typically one or two types of crops
Hmm.
or one or two types of livestock, 900 million acres. When we can take 90% of that and turn it back to natural forest using permaculture techniques or food forestry techniques, then we literally bring life back to our world, and we transform those monocultures that are destroying and mining the sustenance of our planet, our soil, and we can transform that to absolute paradise where the animals, the life will explode in
Hmm.
numbers and diversity again.
Absolutely, and that's I'm glad you brought up soil, Jim, because this is something that I've been looking into, and that is a scary rabbit hole when you start going into it. I know people don't really think about soil. Most people do not have soil on the brain, and somebody pointed me in that direction a while back to say, go look at the condition of our farming soil. Found out very quickly that we've been farming on the same dead soil for like 100 years. They're just putting chemical after chemical in it to try to keep this soil going, and then there's like you basically have no organic life going on. You have like they're just dead zones, and I don't think people like tell people, Jim, about the importance of our soil. Like if we have bad soil, like you're speaking, if we don't change this, we're in trouble, or are we in trouble?
Well, so here's the thing is nature is infinite in its wisdom and abundance, or God's design, whatever perspective. And the beauty of this idea is whatever perspective that anybody's coming at this from, if they're into truth and freedom
Hmm.
and ethics and morality, then this makes sense. So whether you're very religious or very spiritual or very scientific, this is the solution even to the BS narrative of climate change.
Right.
This is the solution to that, even though that's not true. Like this solves all of the narratives. And it was what was the question? I got so
Oh
excited
no,
there.
not a problem. The soil.
Yes,
I don't
soil.
think people realize how bad our
Yes.
farming soil is.
So the bad news is that we have been mining and destroying our soil for several generations.
Hmm.
The agriculture taught in colleges and universities over the last couple of generations has been the most destructive teaching in the history of our world, like by the number of deaths that it has actually caused. Whereby, as soon as we take the poisons out, and that's why they need to keep applying the poisons from on regular intervals,
Hmm.
because nature is so infinitely powerful. As soon as we take the poisons out, and by the way, all unsustainable systems fail. That's the definition of unsustainable. And insanity is unsustainable. So this insanity will end, hopefully, and not, no, forget hopefully, by design and by our action. Everybody listening to this, taking the poisons out and demonstrating health and abundance and vibrancy and faith and courage. By us doing that, we design and become the tipping point for the whole thing to change. And within 5 years of taking the poisons out and designing in these edible landscape systems, the world is completely and radically free and abundant.
I agree. And you're so right. Nature. That's the one thing I'm learning too is that nature is. To me, I always say nature's perfect. It just is. Like I watch it in my backyard, and like I said, I'm not I don't have a food forest yet, guys. I'm working on it, but I started gardening as I was telling Jim, and I even in that small scale, I see the amazing. I see two things. I see how amazing nature is, Jim, and I also see the quality of the food from
Yeah.
what I see at the grocery store. When I grow it in my backyard and there's no chemicals touching my food. Like I buy the best seeds I can get, the best plants, high quality, and I just let nature do its thing.
Right?
The
Yeah.
food is so different than what you see at the grocery store.
Oh,
It's
it, you can't even compare it. I
nope.
mean, we've got these Everglades tomatoes that are they're like just amazingly fast growing, and there's so much abundance there. And when people try these tomatoes, they're like, "Oh my God, I've never had a tomato like that." When you go to the store and buy a cucumber, tomato, or an apple, or a peach, or a plum that was picked 2 weeks early or a week early at minimum, and as on average it travels 11 days and then it sits on a shelf for a day or two,
Hmm.
you don't get it until it's been picked for 2 weeks. Sometimes you don't eat it. The taste, the quality, the nutrient density, the color, everything about it is lacking compared to walking outside and picking it right off the vine.
That's so incredible to me too. Now, because I'm just keeping an eye on the time too, Jim. I know I have you for an hour, so I got so many questions, and thank you for being here because I think your message is so powerful. It's one that's needed, and I hope it really reaches the people. I hope you guys are
It's
listening.
gonna.
Really, yeah, like really take this in because it's so important what Jim is talking about, and what I wanted to ask is, okay, so you're saying that this can be done anywhere because I live in Ontario, Canada, as all you guys know. We have horrible winters here, and that's my problem is that we have a very short growing season. Now, can you do a food forest anywhere in the world? Is it like well, we must see. I always go back to Jim that we must be able to because people were living here long before there were grocery stores. So this
Uh,
change. This is a lifestyle change.
it's a lifestyle change, and it's people think of this as a time liability. The way farming is done, it is a time liability, and hopefully you make up on the return on the yield enough to cover for your liability of time. What I'm talking about is the opposite of that. It's a time asset. When you can have all of your needs met on your property, and you walk outside and you harvest 4 eggs in the morning every single day from 5 chickens. When you have a little beehive in the corner, we put a beehive in 6 months ago. We got 20 pounds of honey in 6 months, which shocked
Wow.
the heck out of me. I couldn't even believe it. I was like, what? So we're putting a bunch more beehives now.
No doubt. Wow.
Right? It is when you and it can be done everywhere that there's flora and fauna. And by the way, this can even permaculture design can be done in the Arctic. Like there's only 3 different plant species that are edible that we could find that grow in some of these areas,
Mm-hmm.
but there's other ways. Permaculture is a design science based on the zone you're in, right? And polar bears do real well in the
That's
Arctic
true.
because they eat one thing. If you could do that, the design would be pretty simple. Find some seals, find some walruses, find some, find some meat, right?
Yep.
But where you are, there are so many thousands of species of edible plants. My buddy in northern Minnesota, off the tip of Lake Superior, has 300 different species of edible and medicinal plants growing. It's a paradise. In fact, here's what happens when you build the Garden of Eden or when you build these paradises. Animals will come, life will come. He's got birds that he's documented that have never been documented in the United States. He's got
Wow.
like 7 types of frogs and 4 types of turtles and all this different life because when you build it, the life will come because it's a great place to live.
That's incredible. Wow. Because I've talked to people about like what we're talking about with food forests, and they that's what they say. Well, we live in it's easy to grow a food forest when you're living in the tropics and you have beautiful weather, most of the year. It's a little different when you're living in a harsher area where the climate gets cold. Like we're just coming out of our winter now, and nature's starting to do its thing already. It's incredible. Like the snow is gone, and now nature's already birds are back, but I'm just but you're like I just want to make sure that you let people know that this can be done anywhere. Like we're not talking about a
Anywhere.
garden. This is
No. And this is where people have been so programmed that to get the value of design into their consciousness
okay.
is one of the challenges of the permaculture world. Permaculture has had the solutions to all the world's biggest problems for decades. Bill Moss and David Holmgren and the whole network have proven what I'm saying to be true. But most people are still so programmed that they'll go out to Home Depot and they'll buy 3 fruit trees and they'll stick them in the ground and they might get a yield after 4 or 5 years. And they're like, that's not worth it. That's not permaculture. It's ignorance and not in a humiliating or shameful way. It's just we don't know what we don't know. And I've bumped my head against this so many times. I built some badass greenhouses, really fancy ones with dehydrators and aquaponics and hydroponics and solar and water catchment. We even had an electric light bulb that was a bug zapper that the bugs dropped into the fish tank. We
Defeat
had
the wow.
biogas and so my point is I've spent a lot of time working the edges until I finally got through my thick head that Bill and David already figured it all out and the permaculture network has had it all stacked up. So now I just simply follow what they've already proven to be true. And this is where design is so important. When you design your landscape, with somebody who's a professional, that's what they do for life, is they're passionate about learning what plants serve in certain ways, what guilds are going to work in your zone with your sunlight, with your water, with your prevailing winds and shade and all that stuff. So that's the value of the design process. It's number one.
That's amazing, and you're so right because I fell into that too, Jim. I in my first year I just went and bought a bunch of berry bushes and that I was like, all right, I'll throw them in the ground. And
Yeah.
the for 2 years later, like it was incredible because I got fruit the second year, which was incredible. I now the funny story is the birds ate it all. I didn't know
Yeah.
that, but I didn't realize that robins love fruit. I thought they only ate worms. That's how ignorant I was at the time.
Love
They
it.
cleared all the berries out of all my berry bushes, but and then the next year I didn't get a yield, and then so I was kind of fumbling. I didn't know what to buy. Like I definitely didn't know that there was a system that you could put in place. And I certainly wasn't planting a food forest. I was planting just what I could get for that summer. It wasn't. I love your idea of designing it from like the proper way, I guess is a good way to put it, and that you're talking about medicinal plants for healing. Like I want to definitely get into that before you go, the power of growing medicinal healing. We're talking about high quality food. Now let's talk about what we're lacking in medicinal. Like people have definitely gotten away from understanding that nature provides what we need to heal ourselves.
Yeah, Hippocrates was a pretty sharp dude, and he said a long time ago, "Let thy food be thy medicine, let thy medicine be thy food." The word medicine is going to be not very much used in our society in 50 years because people will simply eat better food, and then we won't have cancer and diabetes and heart disease and autoimmune and autism and all this crazy shit. It's about simply eating what our body says is nutritious. And I've actually tested this out. I have a bowl of fruit of some kind that I love. And I'll have a bag of, I used to eat Doritos until I found out how ridiculously poisonous they are.
Aren't they
Um,
horrible? I know.
they're,
Yeah, yeah,
they're horrible. They're freaking delicious, but they're poisonous. And so I don't eat them anymore.
yep.
Right. And they're delicious because it's a coercion, it's a manipulation. They've got somebody sitting behind in a lab that simply finds out what combination of sweets and sours and sugars and salts are going to get you to eat more Doritos. They don't care. In fact, they at that level, they don't care if they're toxic, but at the higher level, they want them to be toxic
Yep.
because BlackRock runs the whole freaking show. BlackRock is not only the name of the entity that is the biggest parasite and destroyer of our world, it's the intention of the entity. So,
Agreed.
anyway, I was doing this thing, and what I learned is something about eating natural foods, your body turns off the desire without effort. You simply don't want any more after a certain amount. Whereby those other things, it's effort to put that bag away.
Yep.
It's effortful to stop eating sugars and all this crazy shit when we get addicted to it. That's the nature of addiction. So what you're saying, let thy food be thy medicine, is just it's so simple when we live in this world.
I that's what we've gotten away from too is the simpleness I think of the system when it's used in the correct way.
Yeah.
And I totally know what you mean by like when I started eating healthier, I noticed that very quickly too, is that I'm full quicker. I don't know how to describe it. But I don't eat as much. When I was
You're
eating junk food,
satiated.
yeah, like when you're eating junk food, it's like you said, you can't stop till the bag's gone or you've gorged yourself. But now when I grab an apple or I grab something that's all I need. I think people eat too much, to be honest.
Because they're not getting satiated. They're not getting the nutrients that their body's craving. So the body says, I need more, I need more, I need more. As soon as we fulfill our physical and metaphysical cravings, really by eating nutrient dense food and enjoying it, then our body says, okay, I'm good.
Wow, yeah, it's so true. That was a huge change. Something I noticed very quickly as I changed my diet, started eating way healthier. I was just like, wow, I don't crave that junk food as much, hardly at all now. I still get them, the cravings. I'm not saying they got away, but when I eat something healthy, I'm definitely eating less, and I feel fuller. It's really a strange thing that it's this dupe that they've pulled on people.
Yeah.
And what really worries me too, Jim, is now what I'm really aware of too is when I go into a grocery store, I see what you're saying about what their agenda is, and how they're destroying us with our food and our health. Because when you go into at least the grocery store where I live, they got like 2 or 3 aisles of healthy, what they call healthy food, like vegetables and fruits, and then you got 25 rows of man-made food,
Yeah.
all packaged and stuff like that. And I don't think people are aware of it. Of what is going on, and it's so evil to me of what they're doing.
It is evil. And so this is one of the perspectives. I like talking about this from all the perspectives because people who are aware of or believe in, again, whatever perspective you're at, good and evil, they'll say, holy cow, we're in a spiritual war right
Yep,
now. This, and I know that. I experience that and feel that very deeply.
me too.
We're in a spiritual war. Other people think there's just, in fact, this is what the wicked will use against humanity is they will claim that humanity is destroying the world, but that's a half truth. Yes, we are participating in the destruction of our natural world. Everybody who overconsumes and uses poisons in their lives, on their property, with their friends and family is participating. But why are we doing this? Is it because we're inherently evil? Absolutely not. It's because we're coerced and manipulated into using these systems. Where they use shame and humiliation and fear to control the minds and actions of the men and women of the planet. But once we create the awareness that there's a better way and we demonstrate that there's a better way, then people will simply choose the better way.
I agree. I just can't. I'm saying that a lot. I agree with you, Jim, but I really do.
Yeah,
I just, what you're doing is amazing. And how, like, so let's now, because I just want to try to bring this full circle.
cool.
So somebody wants to start a food forest. Now, we know times are tough for people. Like, let's be honest, and people, and it's probably going to get worse with what we know what's going on with banking and
Yeah.
all of that. So we know it's going to get worse. Now, how small can somebody start? Let's say we got people listening. They're like, okay, I'm in. I want to start a
Yeah.
food forest. How? I know it's kind of hard to give exact numbers and stuff, but how
No, I
small
can
can we
get into
go?
that.
Sure, I
You can
want to know,
start
like, where can we start? Where the
with
cheapest they can start?
you can get a 5-gallon bucket. You can dig it out of a trash at a paint store or somewhere, and you can go to your local parks. Feel where there's a life energy in the system. Maybe it's in the forest somewhere, or in a park, or maybe it's at your neighbor's or friend's home. Dig up some good soil, right? And then go to the store and buy some potatoes and stick the spuds in the soil and go on social media and type in how do I grow potatoes in a closet in Minnesota or Canada or wherever.
Okay.
And pretty soon you're growing your own potatoes. That's how easy it is. It's ridiculously. In fact, Bill Mollison's quote changed my life about 13 years ago. Though the problems of our world are increasingly complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple. It is, but I don't like to be embarrassed, so I like to use joyfully simple. The solutions are joyfully simple.
Absolutely. That's the one. That's so true. Like, you could literally grow in a bucket. You could just get some potatoes and start growing it. It's
Yeah.
incredible. Now let's talk about your company and what you like. You guys are doing incredible things. I mean, you're
Yeah.
like you said, you're doing stuff all over the world. You're getting these forward food forests. I've seen videos of what you like. You guys are big time, man. Like, I see what you're doing. And I'm just like, wow, like, incredible.
It's
It
mind-boggling,
is.
and I've taken my egoic piece to the best of my ability because that's all I can do is to the best of my ability. I've taken it out of the mix. I do a ton of meditation, a ton of relaxation, and a ton of joy, and I am in the food forest a lot. And that's funny because one of my buddies, he was saying, Jim, you're underplaying the amount of maintenance that a food forest takes. And so there's two designations. One is the HOA food forest or the fancy landscape food forest.
Hmm.
That will take the same amount of maintenance as an ornamental landscape. The difference will be profound that it also produces food. And then there's simply a food forest, a wild food forest. So I went out with my camera into the food forest and I looked around. I said, okay, how much effort have we put in maintaining this food forest, which, by the way, is massively productive in the last 15 months, because that's how old it is.
Okay.
And the only maintenance that we had done on that area is to mow the lawn in between the rows.
Wow.
That's it.
That's
Right?
incredible. That's a good point that you're bringing up because I think maybe people think that this is going to be so time consuming. I don't have time to do this, but that's what you're trying to get through to people is that nature is doing it what it does.
Yeah.
You're starting it off, and then just let nature do what it does. And,
Yeah.
and that's what benefits, and that's incredible because you do think of Jim of all the time people spend in their flower beds and mowing the grass and trimming the hedges and all that, and it's
Yeah.
incredible what you said. Like you just had to mow the grass between the rows.
That's all we've freaking done. And eventually we're going to get rid of the damn rows. In fact, we want access. So we're going to get rid of every other row and just stack it. So that way, when we want access for harvesting massive amounts, we can drive our little UTV through the middle of one of the rows and do it every other row. So we're always looking for ways to expand the productivity, the yield on a particular square foot, square yard, or square mile of land. And then to do that at scale. And at scale is key because time is of the essence. We
Hmm.
are at war with wicked, evil bastards who are trying to destroy us
Hmm.
and depopulate. It's very well known for anybody with an open mind. By their deeds, you shall know them. It's just
Exactly.
crystal clear. So then the question is, how do we catalyze a shift and become a tipping point? Mass adoption is the answer, right? When we have little pockets here and there, that's wonderful, but those little pockets inspire bigger pockets, which inspire mass adoption. So we've created business models called a Freedom Farm Academy. And the Freedom Farm Academy is basically it's an off-grid homestead that demonstrates freedom on every level. And it also educates and it also becomes part of the food supply chain during a food supply chain crisis.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like a no brainer in every level.
It really
So
is.
now these systems are scaling out globally. And now the next layer is the influencers. How do we inspire the influencers? Well, we've got it all put together. We've got incredible people, a lot of names in fact, probably 50 of them, and they're all coming together to influence their communities to become self reliant in their hearts and in their minds and in their land.
Absolutely, that's incredible. And that's what you kind of brought up. What I was going to ask you are because I just try to think like if because we're at this war and they are doing what they are to us. Are cities open to you starting a food forest? Is it a hard sell? Is what I'm saying to again messages, of course. Sorry. Um,
No worries. No,
like
to
it,
answer your
yeah.
question, we look at existing structures within our society. The structures of enslavement are very well developed energy systems. The difference in these systems is they're unsustainable, which means they're in process of collapse on multiple levels. But the systems are still there. So with one logical adjustment, we can change that energy from death to life. And here's an example. I was on a call the other day with Doug Crouch, one of our awesome design installers. And he designs and installs, and he's just very wise. And he was putting in a food for us a couple weeks ago at a customer's house. And right next door, True Green shows up. True Green is one of the most destructive companies on the planet,
Mm-hmm.
and they spray lawns with glyphosate and other poisons.
Yep.
So, and these are carcinogenic things that are proven. It's not questionable whether they're carcinogenic. It's absolutely proven that they are, and that we almost all of us have these in our systems,
Yep.
in our bodies, in our child's bodies, in our pets' bodies. And a lot of the issues come from these poisons, including the destruction of the microbiome of the soil and the waterways. So, anyway, we are going to True Green, which, by the way, I looked up who owns True Green, one of the oldest investment firms in the world, a bunch of legal names. Then I typed in intuitively, is True Green connected with BlackRock? Of course they
Of
are.
course it is. Yep.
Right? It's
Wow.
all goes up to the head of the snake. So when we inspire BlackRock to turn green by offering them in a very compelling way, in a very strategic way, to clean out their vats of poison, and instead let's put compost tea with humigenics and worm castings and analemma water in these vats, and let's use that same existing structure that's destroying the world. Let's use that to free the world and create abundance in the world. That one change would overnight change the world. Here's another one. We're now asked to go into 67 prisons in Florida and put in food forests. Why?
Wow.
There's so many reasons. One, this has been done. In California, there was a program for 3 years. It might have run longer, but I know about the 3 year study where the recidivism rate, the rate of prisoners leaving jail and coming back to jail because they screwed up again,
Mm-hmm.
right? It went from over 60% to under 10% with the inmates that participated in the gardening program for 3 years, saving
Wow.
California over $40 million. Why isn't this everywhere? Because of BlackRock and the systems that want to control the world. They want to hide this information. John Nolan on the Inspired channel, which is fantastic, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
after doing a show, he's had David Icke on and all these amazing people who I love. He said, Jim, yours was the most censored program that we've ever done because this is
Wow.
it, my friends. It's nature. Permaculture is simply nature or God's design, and we are showing the value of it to the best of our ability to the world at scale with influencers and messaging and all of it.
That's incredible. Like
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of like now I've seen more possibilities because you're talking about how you're installing them in the prisons, which is giving the prisons better quality food. And then I
Yeah.
also think of if restaurants start, if they had a food forest for their restaurants. I just keep now you see how the possibilities build on each other.
It's nuts, buddy. We're doing an orphanage in Peru with James Layfield and Susanna, and the orphanage is going to be the first, at least that we're aware of. I'm sure there are others, but I don't know about them.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be the first that's designed in permaculture principles to be massively abundant, to create tons of income streams and education. So the orphans who grow up in this environment will live in paradise. They will eat healthy food. They don't have to count on the outside world for donations. And they're going to have rental income. And they're going to have the students, the orphans, actually teaching the outside world about permaculture. So
That's
when they get
incredible.
out, they'll have the most empowering knowledge of all. And that's the Permaculture Foundation, the voluntarism foundation of how to create abundance in our world. And it's scalable.
That's incredible, and you're right too. I think a lot of people don't realize that too. That once you get your food forest really rolling, and then more people are following suit, I see this where it leads to. It leads to communities we were talking definitely freedom. I mean
Yeah.
that's key. I mean in so many ways as you said, Jim. And then I think about how people like you can make an income out of this by selling your excess. I mean if
Yeah.
everybody's doing this, it's just gonna really you're gonna have food everywhere if everybody took this on. Like
If 10% of people take this on, we radically change the world.
that's
Nature's system.
incredible. Wow.
Yeah. God's design, it's infinite in its abundance. And I'll give you a concept to consider. You can count the seeds in a single apple, but you cannot count the apples in a single seed.
Wow. That's so true. Wow, Jim. It's powerful. It really
Yeah.
is. I mean, you're leaving me speechless because I spend so much time, and I think a lot of people do, thinking about our world and the shape it's in, and then we try to look for answers, and we're looking everywhere. And I just always try to tell people we have to get back to simpler ways in nature. We've grown
Yeah.
so far away from that. And it just really it upsets me at times, and I get angry. And I'm sure you go through that. You've went through that too,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
it's just really frustrating because I wish people saw the power in this, and I guess you lead by example.
Yeah, that's it. We demonstrate freedom. Everybody listening, it's time right now
Yep.
to joyfully become a leader, right? To literally intend and design your life to help demonstrate your own passion, your own freedom, your own faith and courage, right? Fear is the control mechanism
Hmm.
of the slave master, and fear is the contraction of all things good. It's the contraction of life, of energy, of spirit, of the ability to solve problems. Fear is the mechanism of control then if that's the only reason to get rid of fear in your life is because it will kill you, that's a pretty good
I
reason.
agree. Yep.
So then next, what to replace fear with? Intend faith and courage. This is a temporary situation,
Hmm.
right? Jim Gale is a temporary situation. This ego will dissolve into the everythingness in a beautiful way. And I've had this experience 2 times where it doesn't dissolve and all of a sudden I should be fearful because Jim Gale's gone. No, 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 no. Jim Gale dissolves into a bigger awareness. It's like we're playing Mario Brothers and all of a sudden we get attached to the character. Right? All of a sudden, I'm Mario, and I don't want Mario to die. Oh shit! I'm gonna hide in the corner and not die.
Yeah.
Bullshit. When Mario dies, I pop back into a bigger awareness, which is Jim Gale, but Jim Gale is popping into a bigger awareness, just like you are, just like all of us are. It's all the platform, the wellspring of life. So let's not be fearful. Faith and courage is a frequency that Tesla spoke about when he said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, of God, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
Mhm.
But here's the catch. I think they screwed that quote up. Don't think. Thinking is the past, thinking is yesterday. It just represents what we already know. Feel, experience the power of now, and feel or experience the energy, the frequency, and the vibration of this moment. And then the wisdom, God's message, Source's message is in the gap between the thoughts.
That's so true. You're so right. That's the one thing I know that people are kind of like, Jim, is that everybody's kind of moving so fast, they've lost connection. I know I did when I was in the city. I lost connection totally with myself and with nature. I mean, when you're in the city, you don't, you have the odd tree in that, but it's not the same as being connected when you're on the land. Kind of like when is the way I. So I really connected, and that's so powerful. What you're saying, people have to start feeling again and doing. I mean,
Yes. And the doing from the feeling,
yep.
not from fear and scarcity. When we act from a place, and I've done this, I went from $20 million to negative $80,000. I was done, no income, a family to feed, 6 grand a month in bills. And I went through my own hell, my own dark period because I was focused on the problems. And when I literally stepped energetically into faith and courage and love and service to humanity, it's been in a waterfall of abundance ever since.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
It really is, Jim. And I'm sure people are going, "Wow, really?" Because I know you've told that story on the radio show. You were talking about how it all started for you,
Yeah.
and where it all came from. And so check that out, guys. You can find it on my channel. How Jim talked about his story, and that's I think a lot of people are that's what they're in. I know they're in a fear state, and I know
Yeah.
that that's how we have to get out of this. Is like exactly what you're saying. Now, I want to make sure I give time for you so you to promote your company and how people where they can find you. But let people know, Jim, like if they want to design, you can design a food forest for them. You guys can find somebody to put it in for them. There's really no limit. Like, what do you have set up for people if they like? Give me the whole thing.
We invite people to participate in the mission any way that they feel inspired to do so. Even talking about Food Forest Abundance and the Freedom Farm Academy as a company or a corporation, it has an interesting feeling in my stomach because we have no patents, we have no non disclosures, and we have no non competes. We are about one thing: let's inspire the world. And here's the
Amazing.
beauty of it: the more we serve, and this goes to the Nash equilibrium. John Nash found and mathematically showed back, I don't know, 50 years ago or something. In fact, he won the Nobel Prize, and a movie was named after, or was made called A Beautiful Mind with, I think, Russell Crowe was the actor.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, in the movie, Hollywood, instead of focusing on the Nash equilibrium, which is simply this: if everybody in an economy does what's best for themselves and others, and the and others
That's
was all
key.
he added, the other part was already there, and others, which means to serve and to create value. If everybody does that, then you have a thriving world. But Hollywood changed it around and made it into a schizophrenic movie, a movie about
Yeah.
schizophrenia.
Well, they
But anyway,
pervert everything.
so
Yeah.
right? So our entity, Food Forest Abundance, is about inspiring people to grow food and bringing on collaborators, cooperators. And we started to about it'll be 24 months, 2 years in on Earth Day. We are now serving people in 52 countries and 49 US states. And
Wow.
anybody who wants to join our mission in any way they want, we have an Abundance Ambassador network, which is free to join. We have a cooperative network. So for people who want to be in the business of helping their neighbors, it's like a landscaping business, except for it's freedomscaping. Then that's something that they can get in and they can be educated and taught permaculture and all the platform. That's a business model that we sell and we support. If they want to own a Freedom Farm Academy, that's another business model that we design, we sell, and our whole network supports to the max. If they want to simply spread the word, if they want me on a podcast, a speaking event, anything like that, then just reach out to us. We have a free 30-minute strategy session with one of our professional growers, our permaculture designers, that
Okay.
anybody can sign up for. You can do it right now at foodforestabundance.com. And then you can share what your vision is. And the most important part for anybody who wants to start growing food, if you want to help the mission, then let us help you by designing the food forest for your yard, for your land.
That's amazing. That's incredible, Jim. Wow. I mean, I can't I'm really you're amazing. What you're doing, what everybody's doing in this mission that you guys are on is going to change. It is changing the world, and it's so powerful as for all the reasons that we've been talking about. I mean, we you can name them all: the quality of our food, community, freedom, key. And I just love the way that you're willing to even help people design it because, like a lot of people, I know I don't know all the things that are growing in my area. I know, like probably what most people know. What I can buy at my, I can
Yeah.
plant with seeds, or I can go to the nursery and I can buy some plants in the spring to plant. But I know there's way more in nature that we've lost connection with.
Yeah.
That you can plant and that is so edible and medicinal, like you name it. And you guys are willing to sit down with somebody and help design for their area.
It's our joyful obsession.
That's incredible, Jim. Wow. I mean, and so you were saying, so that is there anywhere else that people can reach you, or is that because I'll make sure I leave links to the
Yes.
website, or is there any other places you would like me to leave links to so people can get in contact, get involved?
Yes, Food Forest Abundance is all over social media. We have a podcast called The Jim Gale Show, and soon to be named Seeds of Abundance. And we're really starting to spread all over. The mission is going absolutely light speed. We are. I can't wait to share next steps with everybody. In
Right,
fact, we're having a CEO address on Thursday evening about what is that 6 days from
right,
now,
right.
in which we lay out the strategy with the new influencers that have come aboard, and it's yeah, it's really exciting.
Incredible. I'm just checking the time. I know you had to go at the top of the hour, so I wrote it right to the last minute, Jim. I was like, I'm keeping you as long as I can because
Love you, buddy.
I do too. And please keep up the amazing work that you're doing, my friend. You're welcome here anytime to come and chat with us. And I can't thank you enough. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time once again to come and speak with us.
Oh, I
And
love it. Thank you.
you're very welcome. And you're always welcome back. I look into it, guys. Food forestry. This is the answer in so many ways. This is going to change the world. So get involved, guys. Thank you so much, Jim.
Ciao, everybody.
Take care, my friend, and I'll keep in touch. You know I will.
All right.
All right, peace.
See ya.
Take care.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Well, there you have it, guys. What a powerful interview. What an amazing person, and what their mission is, and what they are doing. This is incredible, and I'm so excited about it. I'm learning so much about this. This is something, like as I said at the beginning, that Jonathan Wright, the co-host to my show, an amazing co-host. You can find us at revolution.radio. Saturday nights, guys, Crypt Rick and Jonathan shows 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Studio B. Jonathan is the one who brought food forestry, the idea and this to me, and started talking to me about it. We talk about it a lot in our show. And anyone that's been watching or listening knows that. And this is so powerful, something I'm so excited to get started with this spring, which is coming up really quick. The weather's getting really nice here, actually, guys. And I just want to thank Jim Gale for coming on here once again. I can't thank him enough because this is, like Jim was saying, the answer to so many things. And he's right. Food shortages are coming. I hate saying that, but it's so true, and it's already happening. It's happening where I live. It's happening where you live, and I. How many people do you know that garden? I mean, maybe you're one of those lucky people that do know a lot of people that garden. I don't. I have a garden, but it's not a food forest. Like as I was saying during the interview, I just plant like most people that do have gardens. I just buy some things at the nursery, and I have a couple berry bushes, as I was saying, that I planted a couple years, yeah, 3 years ago. I do get berries on them, but like as I was saying, the gym, the birds eat them all every year. I should have asked them about that. I just think I got to get a net over the top of them. But hey, the birds like it, and all the critters. I mean, I definitely got, when you start planting gardens in your backyard and bringing in like a healthy ecosystem. He's right. Nature just, I have so many birds and critters in my backyard and butterflies and you name it. I got everything. Snakes. I got my first snakes I saw last summer, which was really cool. That was the one thing I was saying to people is that I don't see any snakes in my yard. Like, and I've never seen one. And then last year I saw a really big one actually, a milk snake, and it was really cool because it just shows you like I mean I just when you have everything that nature needs, it moves in, and it's incredible. And this is going to bring freedom. This is what is going to change the tide in so many ways and bring freedom to everyone. I mean, just think of the power of that. That if you just take a little bit of your land, as Jim was saying, you don't got to do your whole, you want to have some lawn and a shrub and some flowers. I don't think anybody's going to hate on you for that. But just take a little bit of your land, your lawn, and plant a food forest, an edible landscape, where every year it just grows and gets bigger and bigger. And think of the freedom in that, where you just walk out your door and you have all of this food available and all these medicinal herbs and stuff that you can use to help yourself. Because I tell you, the food that we're eating now, I'm surprised it's even called food. To be honest, guys, let's be honest. Like we were talking about Doritos and that, but I mean, in my grocery store, you have like 3 aisles that are like your fruits and your vegetables and what they call healthy, and then it's like 20 aisles of just all packaged, processed, unhealthy food. And that's, look at all the health problems going on in the world. Like they're endless. What people are suffering now, and obesity and diabetes and cancer on exploding. Not to mention, what they started doing to people. I can't say it on here. You know what I'm saying. But let's start a few years ago and look at people's health. And I just think about this food forest idea is so incredible and so powerful, and it's going to bring communities together. And what an amazing way to bring communities together, guys, by growing this food and then, sharing it with the community and getting the community involved. And then, you start small in your yard, set the example, as Jim was saying. You can start, like he said, get a bucket, throw some dirt in it, some good quality dirt, and start growing your own potatoes, which I'm going to do this summer, by the way. And you start planting things that come up every year. And I'm so glad that Jim talked about how it's not, I think people think it's going to be so much work when, like, oh my God, I got to take care of a whole forest of stuff and that. But that's not what happens. It's not like you're gardening. I think it's definitely, it takes a lot of work to plant your stuff every summer in the spring. And then you got to take care of it all summer. And then at the end, you got to harvest everything and then pull all the plants out and then start, rinse and repeat every year. This is a food forest is something that just comes back on its own every year and gets bigger and bigger, and you can add on to it. I don't think you have to start off gigantic, as we were saying. You take what you can afford and you start there. That's what I'm doing. So I'm taking what I can afford, and I got the land. I definitely got lots of grass I don't need to be cutting. I'd rather be planting stuff, which is what I'm going to be doing. Already designing it and that, and gonna go to Jim to get help to find out what I should be growing and what's good in my area, because I know there's tons of edibles and medicinal plants that I probably not even heard of or thought of that are going to be so beneficial. And I'm still going to have, don't get me wrong, at least in my case, I'm still going to have my normal little garden where I got my tomatoes and I like, stuff I like growing, like my bean plants and stuff like that, that I'm still going to do that. But on top of that, I'm going to add and start building my food forest. And if you want to even get into somebody who's way further in the process than I am, get a hold of my co-host, Jonathan Wright. You can find him, guys. He's not hard to get a hold of, or contact me and I can get you in touch with him, and he can get you on the path to, he's way further into the process. He's well into the process of designing it, wanting to start up an academy. So he's way, way, way further ahead than I am. I'm at the beginning grounds. He's more further along. So if you have any questions, I can get you in contact with him as well. So I just want to thank you guys so much for being part of my show and supporting me. You guys have no idea how much your support means to me. I say that at the end of every show because I truly mean it, guys. I just really want to see the world change for the better, and I want to see people change for the better. And I just think that food forestry is going to really get us that push into freedom that we are all looking for and change so many things. It's going to really can change the world. The power in that is incredible. The power of the freedom in that, the community in that, it's everything good. It has all benefits. So thank you guys. But what I do want to do is give a couple little announcements here. So right here, guys, don't forget, it is coming up. It's coming up quick. We are talking about Funnel 3, the Trivium, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. Go and register. It's free at freedomundernaturallaw.com, guys. Head right over there. The live event, this conference, is online. It's live June 24th and 25th. You'll want to be there, guys. Look at all of the incredible speakers that are going to be at this one. These are some heavy hitters. There's going to be some incredible knowledge passed at this online conference. So you guys, you want to be there. This is a free online event. As I said, head over to freedomundernaturallaw.com. You can register there for free. And don't forget, what makes this so amazing, this online event, which I think sets it apart, which I'm going to be a part of. I'm going to be introducing some of the presentations, so I will see you guys there. And what makes this so unique, in my opinion, is that at the end of each day, this is a 2-day event, so make sure you mark down your calendar, guys, June 24th and 25th. At the end of each day, there's going to be a round table with all the speakers that did presentations that day, and you're going to be able to go there and write down your questions and ask them at the end of the day. There's going to be a live round table, so if you have any questions for anybody, any of the presentations that you saw that day, write them down, and then at the end of the day, at this round table, that's a live event, you can ask them these questions, get them to clarify anything that you may need clarification on, and that's what I think makes it so incredible. And an amount of amazing speakers that are going to be here. I mean, look at the list. You got Stephanie Mo Davis, Will Keller, Mark Passio. I mean, come on. Look at them all. Joel Rowland. Coriander Lot. I can do Mario West. I mean, just read it here, guys. Diesel Automatic is going to be doing a song just for this event. It's all heavy hitters here, guys. So please, you got to be there. And if you're not going to be there those 2 days, then you're slipping. You're just simply slipping. So make sure you put those 2 days aside. Put that weekend aside, the 24th and 25th. Incredible. You're not going to regret it. There's so much and powerful knowledge that's going to be passed at this online event. So hope to see you guys there. It's going to be incredible. So I just want to get that out there. And don't forget, I just want to let everybody know that you can also find me. You can find me here at YouTube, obviously. I'm also on Rumble. Don't forget, I'm also live at revolution.radio 2 days, technically 2 days a week, but I'm there 3. I'm there every Saturday night with my amazing co-host, Jonathan Wright. We do the Cryptrick and Jonathan show every Saturday evening in Studio B from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Incredible guests there. We're having incredible discussions. We've had Jim Gale on. Incredible. Check it out, guys. He tells his story. He kind of touched on it during this interview, where he, millions and millions of dollars he's lost, was in debt. And then he got himself out, and he's doing something incredible. He's extremely happy. You can tell by look at that happiness and joy when you see him and how passionate he is. That's what this can do for you guys. Also, I have my show, which is Cryptricks I've Been Thinking. That's on every Monday night at revolution.radio from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Studio A. And if you like music, you can find me in the Hawk's Nest there. And that's every Friday evening, 8 p.m. till whenever I decide to basically stop playing music. Sometimes I go 2 hours, sometimes I go 3. But if you enjoyed music of all kinds, check it out there, guys. That's Friday in the Hawk's Nest, revolution.radio, 8 p.m. till whenever. So I just want to get those announcements out of the way there, guys. Let me just go ahead and pop back over here for you. All right, there we go. Thank you so much, guys. I don't want to take too much more of your time. Once again, I want to thank Jim Gale from Food Forest Abundance for taking the time to come here and talk about something that I think is so extremely important. And I hope you guys will look into this. Hope you guys are going to get active. Take your yard, take a little chunk of your yard, take your old yard, do whatever you want to do. But I'm saying, even just take a little bit of land and start planting yourself, get started, start planting yourself a food forest, and you're going to see the freedom and the power in that, and then bring it out to your community. All wins, guys. It's all wins. So thank you so much. I'll be back. I got great guests lined up, lots of guests lined up. I got so many interviews already in the can that I'm going to be releasing. Keep, just at least hit notifications, and then that way you're going to be getting them as I premiere them. And thank you so much, guys. I will continue to thank yous. I appreciate you so much, each and every one of yous. This is how we change things, guys. This is how we change the world for the positive. So stay safe. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. And I will see you guys soon. Peace, guys.
Are you interested in the paranormal, murder mysteries, cryptocurrency, and thought-provoking interviews? Then check out Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking on YouTube, or every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Studio A at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Welcome to the Crypt.